Well, with no further ado, let's start out with well, I don't know if it's the largest, but it actually is the most valuable item in the box unless you win the golden ticket. It is the Envy Copper Pillow Slip. And yes, it does say right here, pimp your pillow. What does that mean, pimp your pillow? Well, copper has antimicrobial and anti-aging properties. And if you think about it, your pillow is there all the time. You get dust mites, you get all sorts of bacteria on just a normal pillow. This is a really common problem, and especially fungus in some environments where there's moisture because you're breathing, things like that. 99.9% of those things die on contact with copper. And copper in low doses like this promotes wound healing, reduces free radicals, and actually improves collagen. And the liner here is made from a botanical fabric impregnated with copper. So it's like you were gonna put your head on a pillow, right? So now you did the same thing, but you did it better. And that's the essence of a biohack or an upgrade, where you actually got more benefits for the same amount of work. And this is lab tested to be effective even after you wash it 100 times. And the copper ions transfer through the fabric via what they call a halo effect. So you actually can, because we're talking about ions here, it can go underneath a regular pillowcase if you want. So think of it like a slip under a pillowcase, or you can just sleep directly on it. And there is, of course, in your subscriber booklet, a code to save more if you'd like to put them on other pillows. If you're worried about allergies and all sorts of other weird stuff, honestly, you shove this on your main pillow. It's a good idea. Sleep is kind of a big deal for me. You might have heard me on the podcast talk about how I've been taping my mouth shut at night for the past couple of years now. I first heard about this from Patrick McGowan when he was on the show. James Nestor and I got to be friends, and we've been chatting about it, quite a bit on and off the air. And I actually sent out some mouth tape, if you're a longtime Box subscriber, maybe 2 or 3 years ago when Patrick was first on the show. And he's one of the world's leading breathwork experts, and he makes this stuff called Myotape. And you actually get a download of his new book called Atomic Focus, which is a full real book. And this tape retrains your breathing patterns. It's what my daughter learned to mouth tape with. So you put it on. In fact, you guys want to see me look goofy? I'm going to do it for you. I promise you that the box that I'm shipping to you, well, it won't have the used one in it. I promise. So here's how this stuff works. You get lots of sheets of these things, and you pull one off, and you look so cool. I mean, just wait till I do this. Ready? Yeah, I look really cool. So you look kind of like a cartoon character, but when your mouth relaxes, your lips are closed. When you open your mouth, you can breathe, you can talk, you can drink some water, but your resting bitch face, well, it's even bitchier. So why would you do that? Because at night, when you're sleeping, whether you're on your side or your back, mouth closed, breathe through the nose, changes the arch, changes how you sleep, changes oxygen in the brain. It is very noticeable. If you use an Oura ring like I do, you will love this. And if you want to be like really, really cool about it, and you particularly don't like your spouse, once they go to sleep, you can take another piece like this, and then they can't talk at all. So there you go. It could be used more like duct tape if that's your thing. If that's not your thing, hey, that's cool. I promise you, if you've never tried taping your mouth, it'll change your life. It's that big of a big upgrade. This is worth about $25 retail. Your pillow slip was worth about $60 retail. So getting lots of value in the box for you. And it's kind of cool that it's hypoallergenic glue. And if you, during the day, not on Zoom probably, just want to learn how to have the habit of breathing through your nose, this works, and it can even work under a mask if you're not going to be doing a ton of talking. So the idea here for me is I've learned don't breathe through my mouth, and I just broke the habit, but it took a long time, even during exercise and things like that. When you read the book that comes with it, Atomic Focus, there's a bunch of different hacks in it to increase your focus, including obviously this. So there's things about flow state, stress resilience, and turning on your brain. So a whole book, as well as breathing tape. If you already use this stuff, great, now you've got a bigger supply, but I know that thousands of us have heard me talk about this. You've heard James, you've heard Patrick, and you go, that is just too stupid. Just try it for a week. I was resistant too. It is so worth your time to do this. and doing it on a copper pillow, hey, or copper pillow slip, you just win. Now, you could say, Dave, what is wrong with you? Do you have a hard time breathing? Actually, I don't. I don't have apnea. I don't have any of that stuff, but I do want to get more sleep in less time, which leads us to our next thing that goes in the box. This is Mute by Rhinomed. And it's a little reusable thing that goes inside your nose. You can't really see it, and it holds your airways open while you sleep so that you don't breathe through your mouth. If you tape and you do these things, you're gonna wake up and go, what just happened to me? Why do I feel this way? And it's just dilating basically your nostrils, and it's a very gentle feeling, flexible, lightweight. They say you can use them about 10 times with proper cleaning and storage. I may have used mine more than that. So your mileage may vary as long as you don't lose them, which I have done in hotel rooms because you're in a rush and you just forget them. So there's a discount code, and you actually get to try the 3 different sizes in the one that I'm sending you so you can see which one works for you. What you're going to find is that between taping and holding your nostrils open, you're a different person in the morning. A really big difference. And now, of all times, breathing through the sinuses, not the mouth, is a really good idea because you have better immune stuff in your sinuses. So there you go. The Mute by Rhinomed, that's $20. How about a $40 product next? I'm doing my best to get a lot of value in here for you. Next up is Magnesium Breakthrough. And you've heard me talk about magnesium for 10 plus years. And oh, Karen says she just bought Atomic Focus. Well, now you have a digital copy as well. And what you're going to find with magnesium from BiOptimizers is about 600 chemical processes in your body use magnesium. So it's a really big deal. And the reason that I like the BiOptimizers is it's got all of the different forms of magnesium that you can possibly think of. And it's very hard to find a supplement. You'll find like glycinate or bisglycinate or citrate. But to get all of the 8s and then some in one product so that it can enter in all the different pathways, it's actually a superior way to do it. And some forms of magnesium will increase stress resilience and lower cortisol, heart health, immune system health, stronger bones, exercise recovery, and improve sleep. So maybe you're gonna pop some of these. They recommend 2. I, at my body weight, take 4. But if you take too much magnesium, it'll give you disaster pants. So you'll know if you took too much. But what you're gonna find here, wow, you got magnesium to improve things, tape, and holding these things open. You're gonna look a little weird tonight, but you're gonna sleep like no one's business. This is from BiOptimizers. You've heard Wade Lightheart and Matt Gallant on the podcast. They've spoken at the conference. And of course, there's a code to save you 15% if you want to get some more of that or anything else. So Joanne and Lisa are stoked on that. Jennifer wanted the Mute thingy. And let's see, Robin says, how does the Kinesio tape differ from regular sleep tape? Regular sleep tape, there's a whole bunch of different kinds of sleep tape. A lot of it is just basically medical tape, and it goes over your mouth. This is interesting because it stretches your mouth to keep it closed, but you can open your mouth. With the other stuff, you put it on there, you can't open your mouth, so it's more, you sound like Kenny, but you can actually talk with this stuff. So it's a difference, and this works really, really well, especially if you're one of the people who's like, I don't want to have anything covering my mouth, I might get claustrophobic. You don't have to deal with that. Next up, we're talking about, well, how do you get more oxygen in the system? How do you feel better? $47 retail value on top of that $40. It's called Oxy Powder. And it helps to clean out your gut while you sleep. And you say, clean out your gut? Seriously? I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about that either. But we actually do get stuff in our gut that doesn't move through the way it should. And it creates an anaerobic environment. What Oxy Powder does that's particularly cool, and it's very well studied for like almost 20 years now, with a lot of studies I looked at for this, is it goes through and it basically turns into oxygen in the gut, and it creates an aerobic environment instead of an anaerobic environment. And it's a little bit more convenient than laxatives and enemas and colonics. There's no chemicals at all in there. And it's formulated by Dr. Edward Group, and he was on podcast episode 766. If you listen to the guy, he knows what he's talking about. And there's a discount code here for you in the book. What you're going to find if you try this stuff, you might try it every night because you just needed that, or you might just try it when you went out to dinner and you shouldn't have eaten that Taco Bell, but you did. But it really does, well, I'm just gonna say, clean things up in the gut in a way that's very different from anything else you might have tried that you might think like a laxative or something. It's not really a laxative, it just makes things work right. And Sybil says, can oxy powder be taken with meds? I would say you probably should separate them, at least on opposite sides of a meal or something. Generally, the oxy powder is gonna be more before bed, although you can do it in the morning. I would want to take it before a meal, and I'd be concerned about meds that are easy to oxidize. So I would want to keep it separate, but some medications probably wouldn't matter, some it would. You can probably even email the company and ask them. My guess is they're going to say what all companies will say, which is, since there are no studies, you shouldn't do it. I once asked a doctor that. I said, so with this drug you gave me, I don't remember what it was, do you think I could take vitamin C with that safely? And he goes, well, there's no studies, therefore it's not safe. And I said, I didn't ask you if there were studies. I asked you if you thought I could take them together because of the mechanism of action here. Is it likely to be safe? He goes, well, there's no studies, I can't recommend it. And I looked at him and I said, are there any studies of lotion with this medication? And he goes, what do you mean? I go, well, can you tell me lotion is safe because it absorbs through the skin? He goes, I see your point. Yeah, you could take vitamin C. So studies aren't the only form of evidence. There's also thinking. So on this one, I'd want to ask the company, but a lot of companies, even if they can think because of insurance reasons, they can't tell you what they would do. In this case, because I am not actually the company, I can tell you what I would do. I would take it away from my medications just in case, unless I had information otherwise. Next up, I am going to talk about the Virtual Mobility Coach app. And I feel like sometimes I don't talk enough about functional movement and mobility. It's been something I added in the very beginning of biohacking. I've had Kelly Starrett and a few others on, and the guys from Egoscue. And what I found was that I had all sorts of movement patterns I was entirely unaware of, and they suck energy. And to this day, I'm still working on them. And Kelly Starrett is the world's leading expert on mobility and recovery. And he runs a very successful CrossFit gym in the Bay Area. He's been on the podcast. He's been a speaker at the conference multiple times. And he's actually the guy during an interview years and years ago who coined the term disaster pants. So pretty well known. There's something called the Voodoo Floss Band, which is a long strip of latex rubber. And you could say, are you really sending me a latex rubber? And yes, I am. Why? Because it's cool. And what you do is you wrap it tightly to create compression, which forces swelling out of a joint, and it causes tissues to get reperfused. And then what's most interesting is after you wrap this stuff, I don't know if I can do this one-handed. What should I say here? I'm gonna try it. Let's see, I was working on my elbow here. You wrap it really tightly, like to cut off as much of the circulation as you can for a brief period of time. And then, in this case, I don't really do the elbow very well, but then you would do forearm movements. And what you're doing is similar to an active release technique. So in this case, if I was working on my forearm muscles, you would see that they're dragging, they're resisting. And when you undo this, it releases a lot of tension in the muscles, and it actually communicates with the fascia. So the app that Kelly has for you is called Ready State Virtual Mobility Coach. He teaches you how to do it. There's also videos of Kelly doing Voodoo Floss. So anywhere you have muscle tension, an injury that just doesn't want to heal, this is really powerful. And I've used it before with professionals. I thought you guys might enjoy playing around with this. There's a decade of Kelly's content. Membership in the app gives you the whole library, things like that, and you're getting a month of the app, but you get the Voodoo Floss because it actually works. And I think you're gonna find it has nothing to do with sleep, but you are gonna find it feels really good to do this. All right, what do you think about some golden tickets? You guys like those? Lenny and William say blindfolds come in the next box. Yes, and fuzzy handcuffs come as well, for sure. Mars uses it with athletes and wrestlers for recovery. And all right, golden ticket time, says Julian and either Jamie or Jaime and Joanne. All right, first one, there's going to be 2 of these. I'm kind of thinking about sleep in this box, if you haven't noticed. Well, how about 2 golden tickets for chilly sleep? This is a chilly sleep unit. This is actually the older one. I think they're sending you the upgraded or the updated version of this one. But I have lots of them because I was an original investor in the company. Chilly sleep is like having an AC and a heating unit hooked up to your bed without all the EMFs that would come from that. You can control the temperature of your mattress from 55 Fahrenheit up to 115 Fahrenheit. They make it for a single person or a bed shared by partners. It'll fit any mattress. It goes on top of it. And Uller pairs with an app so you can schedule different temps throughout the night. You can do it on the thing if you don't want Bluetooth. You can do it with your phone if you use Bluetooth. And they even have a new chilly blanket that's a weighted blanket that works with the temperature control system. It's a 15-pound blanket. And it's great for cooling down during the hot times or during cold times getting warm. Now, a lot of times during summer, if you've ever used a weighted blanket, it makes a huge difference. Problem is during summer, they're too hot. So having a weighted blanket that cools itself really works. So your vestibular system, your fight or flight response sort of relaxes. You imagine you hold a puppy that's squirming until it just melts. Your body does the same thing with a weighted blanket. They're pioneered for autistic kids, but they work for everyone else. It's pretty cool. And what we're doing is we're giving away 1 Uller Me sleep system, and we're giving away a chilly blanket and chilly pad cube. So you're basically, one person wins the mattress pad, the other one gets the blanket and the cube that controls the blanket, which is pretty darn cool. And there's a discount code for everyone. If it gets hot, you don't want to cool the air, this is a much better way to sleep. You will improve your deep sleep with this. Almost everything we talked about here, the codes are all in the book for you. And the final one is really a big one. And this is an Essentia mattress. I'm giving away 1 full mattress. I don't know if that doesn't mean full size. We're giving away 1 Essentia. It's called a Dormuse mattress. And I probably said that wrong. It looks like it's German or French or something. Sorry, Essential. I should have learned how to say that. But this is the world's only patented natural memory foam. There's a lot of crud in a lot of foam out there. This one is a natural foam, and it supports your body's natural thermal regulation. It also works in conjunction with the chilly sleep if you want both. But honestly, the odds of that are exceptionally low for any one person to win both. But you could win one and then get the other. And it's been shown to lower your core temp by an average of 7 degrees just by changing the material you sleep on. And lowering that core temp means a slower heart rate, lower blood pressure, better recovery. And the core support in the Essentia mattress eliminates negative space so that your spine is better aligned. And there's better blood circulation that they've documented. It is from a certified organic manufacturer. No latex, free of toxins and stimulants. And if you want to order it, you can get a built-in EMF barrier formula. So if your neighbors put their Wi-Fi right underneath the floor, I would want to do that for sure. Check your booklet for a discount code to save $250, which is way more than the box costs. And as it is, I didn't add the total up for you here, but you're getting 47 and 40 and 60 and 20 and some other stuff in there. So I don't think they even counts the digital books. I think we way exceeded the $100 price tag. There goes about $220. And I'm thinking this is gonna help you guys sleep. It's gonna do all sorts of good stuff. Well, let's do some Q&A, which is a part of what you get with your box subscription. And if you like these Q&As, by all means, make sure that you join the Upgrade Collective, ourupgradecollective.com, where we have these calls every couple weeks, and I answer a lot of questions a lot of the time, and it's just it's a lot of fun and a lot of learning as well.
Am I still muted, Dave?
I can hear you.
Okay, sweet. So my mom has been going through kind of like the course of like the whole autoimmunity, where we're trying to figure out if she has like dysbiosis and these kind of things. So she recently just got a SIBO test, and it looks like that's positive. So could you kind of talk about like the recovery from SIBO? And if you're in a situation where you're eating a lot of foods and you're kind of throwing up, you're having diarrhea, your body's kind of overreacting to different allergens.
Well, having SIBO and overreacting to different allergens are different conditions. When you have SIBO, or small intestine bacteria overgrowth, there are bacteria growing where there basically shouldn't be. And what you do is you go on a brief course, a month or two, of zero fermentable carbs. One of the reasons people feel good and do well on the carnivore diet, which by the way is 100% in the green zone of the bulletproof diet. You just don't want to do that forever because you need fermentable carbs. So you might go carnivore, you can still eat some veggies as long as there's nothing fermentable, but honestly, you probably don't need the veggies. So it's like a meat and fat sort of a phase. And then there are antibiotics that don't get absorbed by the body that you could take, or you can take a combination of silver and oregano oil and oregano leaf and grapefruit seed extract that in many cases, and there's a few other herbs too, sometimes wormwood, in many cases that will solve the problem. And then you can test again. And you might also look at that oxy powder and possibly doing a rectal ozone therapy or drinking ozonated water. All of those tend to make a difference. It's going to take a month or two, and then you add fermentable carbs back into your diet. And that's step one. Step two, you probably have leaky gut, or your mom does, as a result of that. And leaky gut means you could be responding to your questions, responding to your foods in ways that you don't want to do. Fixing leaky gut oftentimes will turn down the autoimmunity. However, you may have mast cell issues going on. So a quick way to see if you can be less reactive to foods is to look at the histamine content of the food, which turns on mast cells. For that, just take Pepcid AC, 2 in the morning, 2 at night for a week, and some Claritin, 1 in the morning, 1 at night. And if magically it all goes away, then you know you've got a histamine issue in your food and probably a mast cell overactivation issue in the gut. And so Pepcid is an acid blocker by way of the H2 histamine receptor, which means you need to take acid with your food so you don't get SIBO. And that acid is called betaine HCl. All right. I think I saw Dr. Kaz was next.
You have to take supplements with food, but you want to do a 14, 17-hour fast. How does that happen?
If you read Fast This Way, there's a chapter in the book where I talk about which supplements are safe with fasting and which ones aren't. Generally speaking, most minerals are going to be okay, but iron-containing minerals are going to make you feel nauseous. But things like chromium or vanadium also could drop your blood sugar a little bit. But something like magnesium is totally safe during a fast. And the list goes on from there. But if it's something that requires fat to be absorbed, like say vitamin D, you can take vitamin D during a fast. You just have to take a little bit more of it. Just because it's recommended with food doesn't mean it won't. Or it doesn't mean that it has to have food. You just might not make as good of a difference from it. There's also what I call the Barfy 4 in the book. You can go to fastthisway.com. By the way, there's a fasting challenge. If you guys haven't done it yet, it's totally free. I'll teach you how to do all this, and there's a little lecture about these. The Barfy 4 are the 4 supplements that will make you, want to throw up when you're fasting. You probably ought not to take those. Karen had a question here. Resistor, which is an ozonated olive oil product. That's another one you could use during SIBO. I see Ira. I have no idea if this is in the right order, but Ira, you look like a cutout on the floor in duct tape in a murder scene because you have a picture up there. There we go. I can see you now. What's your question, Ira?
Well, would you treat Candida or H. pylori that shows up on a stool test if you're asymptomatic? And if so, would you use nystatin, or how would you treat either one of those?
Got it. So if you guys, just to restate that, would you treat asymptomatic Candida or H. pylori? H. pylori, I probably would. And mastic gum and a few other things like that work really, really well. You don't want that floating around because if it's present and something bad happens in your diet or you get sick from something else, it's likely to cause problems, and you're not going to know when a symptom turns on. It's not like it's a light switch. It slowly grows on. Oh yeah, maybe I do have an ulcer, but it's not worth the biological burden of that. There's always going to be some small amount of candida present, and it turns out there's several different forms of candida. There's Candida albicans, which most of us are familiar with, but there's Candida krusei, which actually grows on raw cacao and can be a pathogen. And then there's some hyper-aggressive candida that kills people whose name I forgot, like Candida stinkbomicus or something. Whatever it's called, that's not a particularly good one, and it's a hospital-grade infection. Of the Candida albicans, which does take a residence in your skin, your gut, your GI tract, and your reproductive organs, both for men and women, there's sort of 4 big buckets of it. And some of it is sensitive to nystatin. The majority of it is sensitive to this weird substance called caprylic acid, which is also known as C8-MCT oil. Totally weird. Yes, that's actually a prescription antifungal when it's written as a prescription antifungal, but some candida is sensitive to it and some isn't. So a really good functional medicine doctor would actually test and culture and say, what about those versus nystatin versus grapefruit seed, not grapeseed, but grapefruit seed extract is another common one. And what I recommend if people have symptomatic, in fact, what I think works well for everyone, what I would recommend if I was allowed to recommend such things, would be not just nystatin. Nystatin is an antifungal. It is a statin drug. By the way, all statin drugs are antifungals, which is very interesting. This is the first statin drug, although it doesn't have the bad effects of the really aggressive ones. What nystatin does there is it does not get absorbed systemically. It just stays in the gut and kills things. There's also something called monolaurin, which is a modified lauric acid, not lauric acid, which doesn't work very well for that, but monolaurin is expensive. That might make a difference as well. And then what I prefer, though, is straight up fluconazole. Do a month of fluconazole, which is a prescription antifungal monostat. 1 pill fixes a yeast infection for women. Well, if you do it every day for 2 to 4 weeks, it can have profound effects on you, but about 2% of people get liver issues from it. So if you're going to do something like that, you want to make sure you're monitoring your liver performance, take glutathione and vitamin C or NAC and stuff like that. But would I treat the candida? Probably not. Would I treat the H. pylori? Yes. Long answer, good question. All right, let's see who's next here. Devon, I think we already chatted and it's still showing that your hand is up. Am I correct on that? You can nod because I can see you.
Oh, Dave, I just had a quick follow-up.
Okay.
Someone already asked about resistor, so you recommend having resistor in that first month as well? I have resistor right here.
Yeah, I would do resistor for that. I would just maybe want to take it away from the herbs like oregano oil. It might be compatible with it. I mean, it's probably okay with all that stuff, but maybe if you take it with a vitamin C or something that's an antioxidant or a polyphenol, it's probably not a good idea. Yeah, the oxy powder is a good one too. Yeah.
No, I haven't been able to find a good a bit of information on this. If you want to take activated charcoal on a day-to-day basis for binding, when is the best time to take activated charcoal? Is it right before bed? I've never found an answer about this.
I love this question. Well, there's 2 answers to it. And I'm like the guy who made activated charcoal part of biohacking because it's such a powerful thing, whether you have mold or Lyme or just a hangover or just gut dysbiosis, any of that stuff. You can take it anytime you have an empty stomach and it's beneficial. But if you are looking at systemic detox, 30 minutes before a meal is the ideal time because it should be through the upper part of your digestive tract so that when you eat and your body secretes bile, the charcoal will be right there where the bile gets secreted. Then it essentially will stick to the charcoal, especially the toxins that recirculate in the bile would stick to it and then it would get excreted. So that's, if you want perfection, half hour before a meal. Otherwise, before you go to bed, anytime you got an empty stomach, right? But if you're taking a bunch of other, systemic enzymes right before bed, then the charcoal needs to be apart from those as well. So just have a bottle of it on your desk and when you're like, oh, look, I haven't eaten in a couple hours. I'm going to pound a couple of charcoal, good to go. Do not be alarmed if you have black poop. If you guys have never had this, it will turn black. You can also measure your bowel transit time, because how long does it take to turn black will tell you how long it takes things to go through your poop canals. That's a medical term there. I just made it up. And sometimes people think that they have blood in their stool. No, that's just charcoal. Too much of it is constipating. So you have an issue there, that's easy. Take the stuff I just sent you, the oxy powder. You will not have a constipation issue if you take a few of those. Or the magnesium, actually, take a bunch of that. Or some MCT oil. It's like a whole array of disaster pants waiting at your fingertips. How's that for a good answer, Devon? All right. PA, what's up?
Dave, how are you? I'm in my sauna, so I'm not going to show everybody my sweaty body, but thank you. Since we're on sleep, DSIP peptide, any thoughts on it that you can comment on?
DSIP, deep sleep inducing peptide. Sounds wonderful. Just shoot it up before bed and see if it makes you get more deep sleep. Sadly, I did not get those results, but I wanted to. So I tried it 2 hours, an hour, half hour, and right at bedtime. It didn't do anything for me as far as I can tell. So some people, though, have reported good results from DSIP. So if you're looking to induce deep sleep, it's probably worth a try. I think it was somewhere around $40 for a vial. That'd be good for a week or two. But you know, given there's also syringes and reconstituting, and it just didn't seem to do anything that I could measure, I don't use it, but I don't want to say it doesn't work.
Thank you. Kudos on the life cycle lion's mane. That stuff is incredible for sleep. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. You know, sometimes people think stuff is commercial, and I'm just going to tell you guys, no company can pay me enough money to make me lie. Like it just doesn't matter. Like my life will not change from that. So the way it works is I find something, hey, this is actually noticeably different and better, and I test it out, and then I bring it to you guys. And yeah, I'll work with Lifecycle on sponsorship, or I'll become an advisor or investor or whatever. But it has to work. And I truly have noticed a difference there. And I'll tell you, there's two mushroom products that I find work, right? The life cycle stuff is really good. The Australian species is special. And if you go for Host Defense, which is Paul Stamets's mushroom company, he makes very high quality, mostly North American sourced mushroom products. And I've been pretty clear for sleep. I noticed the difference from the Australian species, but I trust Paul. He's been on the show. I trust his work as well. But once you get outside those two things, there's probably a few little high-end brands out there that I don't know about, but the mainstream brands, they're all like Chinese mushroom, mycelium. They just don't do anything. Like there's a famous one that comes packaged with coffee. Can't tell any difference from that stuff. So I've been disappointed by lion's mane for years because I never felt it and all the studies were so good. It has to do with extraction, quality, and methods and species and all that. So be aware. If you see that lion's mane doesn't work, it's probably because you didn't use the right brand. All right, now I think Chris Willis, you're up next.
So I've been following your diet and taking the supplements, and I'm currently down 57 pounds. And
Yeah.
I have a female friend that's doing some other kind of diet, and she lost 60 pounds. So we're pretty comparable, but she lost the girls, and I still have mine. So I was wondering if is it just my biology, or is it because of the supplements and what I'm eating?
It's probably the supplements and what you're eating. And this is just going to sound bad, but women's bodies are mean. You're like, I'd like to lose some weight on my arms and my belly. And it's like, no, boobs and butt. Right? And it's just going to go from there first. And it's not fair, but that's generally how it works. But if you are eating enough quality saturated fat, particularly stearic acid, which is in butter and grass-fed meat and all that, I believe that it lessens the effect of that. You're still more likely to lose some boobs, but interestingly, with Lana, she's been on this diet for longer than almost any other woman on the planet, and she had, when I first met her, no padding on her butt and very small breasts. She's a double D and has padding on her butt. Now, she did have stem cells, and a month after the stem cells, she grew 2 cup sizes, and all of her friends said, hey, where'd you get the work done? It looks real. And she's like, I didn't get any work done. They just did that. So there's a hormonal effect. What we believe happened there is that her biology had always wanted that, but she did a 10-day water fast when she was 16 after reading it in a book about yoga. You can see why she's my wife, right? And ever since then, it created a thyroid problem. So her body never actually built the boob and butt that should have been there genetically. So it kind of got the nutrients and the stem cells, and it filled out the way that it should have originally. But to this point, if she loses weight, like she just lost 4 or 5 pounds, she says, I lost a cup size. I don't really like the way my pants are fitting. I'm going to go up 2 pounds. So you can dial it in. If you're on a low fat, low calorie kind of diet, and guys, there is a way on extreme low fat, high starch, bad for you long-term diet to trigger hunger suppression so that you're not hungry at all. I think my methods work much better using CCK and using MCT oil to suppress ghrelin and raise CCK. But there is a path to do that. You can lose weight, but over time, it creates all sorts of systemic problems, particularly cancer is a big concern on that kind of a diet. But when you do that, you're much more likely to shrink the boobs and butt than you are if you're eating a higher fat diet with the right kinds of fat. So long answer, and some of it may be genetic. And also if you look at your hormones versus your friends, you look at your thyroid, you look at your progesterone levels, there could be some differences there. But honestly, the difference between 56 and 60 pounds is approximately 1 pee and 1 poop. So I'm going to say you guys are about even, right? So the difference isn't really enough to be statistically significant. And just kudos, it's so life-changing to lose that much weight. It'll keep coming off. And if you plateau, make sure that if you're in the Upgrade Collective, there's lots of us here to help. But make sure you look at your thyroid and testosterone. Those are the things a lot of women think, oh, testosterone doesn't matter. But if you plateau and your testosterone is low for a woman, it's really hard to lose weight. Once you get that up where you want it to go, you're going to like how you feel, and then you're going to like how you look.
All right, great.
All right. That was a good question. Time for one more. Kathy from Texas.
Dave, Kathy wrote a question here, though. It says,
Thanks,
she has a question about using resistor and hydrogen water. Can you use these if leaving time in between?
Oh.
Is that your question, Kathy? Yeah.
Well, there you go. Bev is actually psychic. It's incredible. Thank you, Bev. You could probably use them at the same time, actually. There should be no issues with it. What's neat is you're going to create a pro-oxidative effect from the resistor. And you go, what pro-oxidant? That could be scary. But it's the same thing that ozone does. And free radicals are signaling molecules. They're not bad, but some of them are bad and some of them are not bad. And peroxynitrite is a particularly nasty one that happens. And you'll know nitrous oxide's good for you, right? So you should eat a lot of beets. Yeah, right. If the beets go down the peroxynitrite path because you get inducible nitric oxide, they're going to be terrible for you. And if they make endothelial nitrous oxide, they're going to be good for you. How do you know? Well, it's genetic and probably gut bacteria based. So if beetroot makes you feel like crap, that's okay. Don't eat it. But what hydrogen does is hydrogen blocks that type of harmful free radical. So if you're taking the resistor, which creates lipoperoxides, which cause the mitochondria to become stronger and express more SOD and glutathione and basically wake up. If you have that and you have something that blocks bad free radicals at the same time, I don't see any interaction that's likely from, well, free H2. There actually isn't an O3 present because it's all bound to the oils, so there shouldn't be any reactivity there. They'd probably be fine to take together. If I was going to do one then the other, I would do hydrogen, and then like 5 minutes later, you should be okay to take resistor because hydrogen isn't going to have a very long life in the body. And I think that would work fine. All right. Peter wants to say, did anyone listen to the podcast with Dr. Alan Bauman? Of course, Peter Bauman, they're not related, I'm sure. All right. Ryan says, peanut butter is the best with charcoal for dogs. No, it's not. Peanut butter just shreds a dog's gut. They should never have the lectins, the aflatoxin, and the the very long chain VLC saturated fats that are in peanuts. So give it to them in butter, but yeah, if you want your dog to like clear the room, give them peanut butter. Not a great dog treat. Yeah, Peter, extra hydrogen and extra oxygen equals more water. If it was real ozone therapy, that would happen. But given that the ozone is already reacted with fat, I don't think it would. Let's see, Louise. Limited LTD edition box discount code anywhere. Going to order and savings will help you spend more on the BP website and other things. I don't think we're doing any discount code on the limited edition box. The limited edition box is one for the conference. It is our biggest and best box. The conference boxes are over the top, and they're meant so that if you go to the conference, you're getting a lot of the stuff, a lot of savings. And if you can't make it to the conference, it's just in September 17th, so it's just coming up here. There is a code that you get as a box member to save on going to the conference, but it doesn't work on the box. And there's a limited number of those boxes where we've already made them up, and once they're sold, they're sold. So if you like this box and you're looking for like the maximum savings and value, I gotta say we killed it because there's more than 100 exhibitors at the conference this year. So it's gonna be a really big kind of fun party, and it's time to do it, but those aren't discounted. And I'm scrolling through here. I'm supposed to be done. I'm getting a dirty look here from Chris. Can I do one more question if I really want to? You guys want one more question? I'll give you one more. All right, let's see. James says, thanks. Oh, Joe's from the UK. Nice try, Louise. All right, anyone? I don't see any hands up. Oh, there he is. I just couldn't see it. All right, I'll wave again. Was it Joe? My mouse is gone. All right. Hey, Joe. Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, so I just wondered if you had any advice. So I'm 6 months post 2 spine surgeries after a broken lower back, and I've been sort of working for the last 6 months, and trying to get my strength back and get my core stability back. I've been doing lots of things with my diet, and that's been helping really well. So thankfully recovery is going great. But I just wondered if you had any sort of post surgery tips or any bits of advice there.
Absolutely. Congrats on recovering. And you got the hardest thing is you've got to have the right building blocks and not have the toxins while the body's going through a stressful period. And the stressful period is there's an injury, so extra electrons and amino acids and saturated and unsaturated fats go in to fix it, right? So that takes a load, right? It's like, it's one thing to go through every day and kind of live your life. It's another thing to do a deep cleaning of your house every day and make a meal from scratch twice a day, which is what your body is essentially trying to do. So you've got it nailed nutritionally. Now the big question is, how do you get a stimulus into the spine so that it knows what to do? I have talked with 2 people who were quadriplegic who were doing squats, and they did that with electrical stimulation. I'm friends with Terry Walls, who was in a wheelchair and used electrical stimulation and a diet, which I think has more nightshades than I would recommend, but one that she and I agree on 90% of things. So I'm going to put that in the quadrant of goodness. And what's going on there is electrical stim is great, but it oftentimes isn't the right frequencies. The machine that I think is the best is the NeuFit, N-E-U-F-I-T. I don't know about availability over there in the UK, but it's a dual waveform thing that's used for physical therapy. It will cause you to grow new nerves, even if they're going around a break in the spine, for instance. It's one of the 2 or 3 primary ways that I'll put on muscle. And you can make the nervous system and muscles do things that you would not believe are possible. I think I wrote about it in Superhuman. I did some stem cells with a broken toe that had been injury for several years, actually, just wouldn't heal because it was a bone shard. And it was the stem cells plus the electrical stimulation using the NeuFit that really helped. The other thing that could be ridiculously effective for you is electroacupuncture. How many of you guys have heard of electroacupuncture? It's kind of an unknown one. I see a few people. And what you're doing there is you're hooking small electrical currents up to needles. Now, this isn't a human story, but my dog Max was a miniature dachshund. Now, this dog was an asshole. Okay, the cutest, most awesome looking dog you've ever seen. He looked like a cow. He had one blue eye. Like he was the perfect like Instagram dog. But he was just high anxiety all the time, couldn't chill out, was always interested in showing me that he was the second top dog after me, which I don't care about. So he was just a neurotic dog. We ended up giving him to a close family friend where he could rule their house because, sorry, it didn't work in our house because he was mean to the other dog. But he didn't know he was a dachshund. He thought it was a rat terrier. So he did these acrobatics and he broke his spine or ruptured discs in 2 places, incontinent, walking around like a mermaid, $10,000 neurosurgery, or fund a scholarship. I grew up on a farm. I'm sorry, you don't spend $10,000 on a dog even if you love him. So we said, we're not doing that. Instead, we did electroacupuncture and treadmill therapy for about $500. In 6 weeks, he gained full use of his legs, full use of his bladder, restored everything, and lived for another 8 years without being re-injured. So, should a qualified person be putting needles around the injury sites and wherever else the needles should go and running small amounts of current to tell the nerves to myelinate and to tell the muscles that they have to move? I think so. Your risk reward is low and the cost isn't very high. So I'd start with the electroacupuncture if you can't find access to the NeuFit, N-E-U-F-I-T. Sound like a plan?
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Yeah, things in the UK tend to be hard to pick up. Everything is so inaccessible. But
you may find Pulse EMF works as well. When Nikki Bella was recovering from her neck surgery, her neck injuries, she came down to Upgrade Labs and I was her sort of functional coach. And this was for her big fight with Ronda Rousey. I don't know if you guys follow Total Bellas, but I was actually on Total Bellas on an episode, which is totally outside of my normal universe. She's actually a really nice, intelligent, just cool person. But one session of the high current PEMF from Upgrade Labs, she's like, my neck doesn't hurt. I can't believe this. Like, what did you just do? So you might find there's value in that as well.
Well, I appreciate that a lot.
Cool. All right, my friends, as always with the box, you get a bunch of interesting Q&A, a chance to learn a few things. You always get a ton of value. I am really hoping that you've decided to come to the conference. It is looking to be the best and biggest and most fun conference that we've ever put on. If you can't make it to the conference, look at the limited time edition box. We've got links that we'll post for you guys there. Biohacking Conference. There is a discount for the conference still available, I think. The VIP spots are sold out. But my team will make sure that we put up whatever the right links are for those. And I will see you all for the next box, the next Q&A, the next boxing, whatever you want to call it. Enjoy your voodoo band. And if anyone makes fun of you while you have your nose expanded, your mouth taped, and all the other stuff, just look at them and say, and it'll all be good. I'll see y'all later. Bye.